everyone can hear us anyway. But, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We are finally live. We apologise. We had a few tech issues. It always happens. I am just doing something. We are obviously joined by our lovely friend, Nicky Folsom. Good evening, Nicky, and how are you?
Hello, I'm doing great. How are you doing?
I'm fine, thank you. So obviously we finally got you on because we should have had you on how many years ago now?
It's totally fine.
So obviously we'll just go straight into it. So what got you interested in the paranormal?
Oh, that's a good question, Sam. So when I was about 5 or 6, I woke up in the middle of the night and I saw a soldier walk by my bedroom. And it just didn't register with me that it could be a ghost. It was a soldier. Then it disappeared. It had like a cross fabric on its chest, and it was carrying this rifle, which to me at 5 or 6 looked like a knife. I had no idea what a bassinet was at that time. Well, what you don't know is that I grew up in Pennsylvania about 20 to 25 minutes away from Gettysburg. And I never put 2 and 2 together because I was so young. I didn't think about it. But that was my first brush with it. And when I was young, I just didn't think anything of it. I was telling someone else the story and they laughed at me because I think I was about 8 or 9. We had a basement. And I would sit at the bottom of the stairs and turn the lights out because, that's just who I am. And I would watch these shadows move around the room. I was so comfortable watching it. It was just like a bus stop or a train stop. And you just, different heights and sizes and shapes. And I just sat there for hours watching them. And one day something formed. The way I saw them was there was a door at the top of the stairs, and there was a sliver of light that came from under it, so you could see just enough to see the shadows. And one day, there was this humongous shadow. It had to be 6 or 7 feet, probably 7 feet tall. It was coming down the stairs slowly, and I just was terrified. I remember it getting down the stairs, and how when you're investigating, something's around because you can hear arms stand up. Yeah. My arms were standing up and your air got thick. And just as it got near me, my mom opened the door at the top of the stairs and turned on the light and yelled down for me to come up for dinner. And thank God she did, because I don't know what would have happened if she hadn't done that. But that's what started it all. I've just been interested in it ever since. I love to investigate things. That's it.
Yeah, and obviously, I guess it was like you say, it was pretty scary because I think sometimes, even if you aren't a kid, if you're new to it, like the paranormal or anything like that, if you see something what's not you can't see any facial features on it, you're like, what is that?
Right. Yeah. It's it's interesting because that's, right about as I, start becoming the 10, 11, 12, that's when you start having slumber parties and you start playing with the Ouija board and you start doing all these interesting things. And I did play with the Ouija board. And here, I'll tell you an interesting tidbit. I played with the Ouija board, I guess I was like 11 or maybe I was younger. I'll say 11 because I can't remember the exact time. And a friend of mine and I were sitting in the basement playing with it. And it lifted off our laps. So we had it resting on our knees. We were sitting kind of crisscross applesauce, if that's, what that means, with our legs crossed. And it was sitting on our knees. And we were talking to it, and it lifted up and scared the crap out of me. So I just hit it off my legs and ran out the door. And this is where you come in. I didn't play with a Ouija board from that moment to the time I was at Warwick Castle for Sage Paracon. And Robert Murch was there. He's the only reason I did it, because he made me feel comfortable. And then I was doing it all night.
Wow.
See, there you go. Now you know how you got into that.
Yeah, it's like obviously I haven't really. I don't know if anyone in the chat room has had any bad experiences, but I haven't had any really bad experiences with Ouija boards, and I don't think like obviously you have a lot of people who do say they've had bad experiences with Ouija boards because it's obviously people can manipulate them yourself, so it's kind of one of them taboo subjects into it where like it's kind of like, well, we weren't there, so we didn't see it, kind of thing.
Yeah. Well, and I don't know. Here's what's funny is at that age, I don't know if that was necessarily bad. I mean, at that time, I thought it was terrifying. But looking back, maybe it wasn't bad. Maybe it was just they were trying to get my attention a different way. So you never really know, I guess.
And obviously, with the whole Hollywood movies and things like that, they have to make Ouija boards scary.
Of course, that's what sells, right? That's okay, though.
So, no, were you going to say something, Nicky?
I was actually going to tell you another thing. I think I was talking about this at one of the talks I did in Houston, but I was right around that same time is where I started to do my teenage creative EVP, or actually it might have been more of like a spirit box, because I would sit in my basement with my recorder. Now, this is before I did any type of research on how to do anything. I had no idea about this stuff. And I would sit with, back then, before there were cars, we had recorders where you would listen to the radio and then you record songs off the radio, because iTunes did this.
Yeah, I know what you're on about. Yeah, don't worry.
I'm using one of those. And my dad would be outside mowing the grass. And the hum of the mower would be like, I would record that hum of his mower, and I would ask questions to spirits that were around me to see if I could get any responses. And I did get responses. So it was a really unique way of trying to connect way back then. And I look back, how does a child know to do that? I have no idea how I figured that out, but it works.
But didn't, obviously, with you going back to how you did it, didn't it in the early days, isn't that the way they kind of did it anyway, recording EVPs? Yeah,
possibly. They had to do something. And with the TV, I'm sure. So, yeah. Well, I guess they didn't have TV. Oh.
I'm sure someone will put in the chat room if we're wrong. So, obviously, you have... How many daughters do you have, Nicky?
How many what?
Daughters.
I have three, and the oldest is, I'm not even going to say their age because that's going to age me. Oldest is Kirsten, and then I have Molly is my middle daughter, and then Ashton's my youngest. And Ashton's 19, I'll say that one.
So because obviously I've read a bit up about you, and obviously they've had experiences. So do they still have experiences?
Oh, yeah. Yes. It follows us, and I wonder this, and maybe I'd love to get your perspective on this. So I started seeing those shadow people when I was young, and I've seen them my whole life. When my oldest daughter was about 6, she saw shadow people in her room. She saw a man. Well, she said it was a man and a little boy because of their height, but they have followed her around her whole life. Ashton sees them. My husband, Eric, has started seeing them. And just in the last couple of years, he started seeing them, which is crazy because we walked in the house and he was looking over my shoulder and kind of watched across the back deck and watched it run. And the look on his face was priceless because, this is the first time he's seeing it. It's like, see, I told you it exists. But here's what I don't know if this is a thing, but I would love to hear your perspective. Can you pass this down? So if shadow people follow me, is that something that I've kind of unfortunately passed on to my children? Or have you ever heard of that?
No, obviously going on to a little bit about me now, because obviously I haven't obviously passed me more. Obviously, my mum could see spirits, talk to spirits, and so that's been passed down. But I don't know. I can't even think about shadow people, so. Maybe someone in the chat room will maybe.
I can't even.
But yeah, that is a very interesting thing which you've obviously said, because obviously there's comments, obviously people say no, spirits follow us, so maybe shadow people do follow you, but at the end of the day, what are shadow people? So
yeah, it's just crazy. There's so many things out there that we just don't know, I feel like, and I feel like they're not all bad. I think that we have to kind of go against Hollywood a little bit and say, hey, there are some things that aren't, they're frightening because you don't know them, but they're not necessarily terrifying. MJ Dixon's the one that taught me. We had at the Harlequin, the book I wrote about Harlequin, there was this creature that Robert, one of the managers, and I had seen when we were standing in the light booth. We saw it up in what's called the grid, which is above the house of the theater. And I was convinced it was this little demonic thing. MJ came in and she said, no, it's an elemental. And what it is it's learning how to interact with you. So when you hear it growl, it's not necessarily evil. It's just confused. It just is uncomfortable because it doesn't know what you are. So my uncomfortableness and then it was just like clashing, and it was growling at me. So I spiraled it out of control. And what's funny is since she came over and did the investigation with us, I've not felt uncomfortable at all. Now I've heard it growl since when I was going, this was just like 2 weeks ago. I was going upstairs and at the theater, and I got about 3 steps from the top and it started to growl. And I was like, I out loud to myself, I said, nope. And I walked right back down.
Well, this is the thing, obviously, Larry, as you said about the elemental thing. The thing is, because, like, I'm not going to slate anyone, but it's like everyone just thinks growling's demonic.
Yeah. It's not.
A few comments in the chat room shall share with you, Nicky. First one's from Jay Lynch. He says, some people believe that shadow people are actually your spirit guides, and if they can be, passed down from generation to generation.
Interesting. Thanks, Jay. That's interesting. Spirit guide. I see if I can get something from them. There's one at the theater that I don't think is a spirit guide. He's just mean. But some are guides and some are just jerks.
So obviously, because you've mentioned the Haunted Theatre for a few times, would you like to tell everybody about the Haunted Theatre?
Sure. So I wrote my very first book in March of 2017 is when I launched it or published it. And I wrote it because I was volunteering at a theater, had been volunteering there for 8 years probably by that point. And I kept hearing all these experiences that people were having, and I was having my own experiences, and my youngest daughter was having them. So I just started documenting them. And as I compiled these things, I was just fascinated by how many things happened in the early 70s. And I know that's young, or that's for England, because the buildings are amazing and old that over there. But in the early 70s, the things that we were experiencing today, they experienced back then. And I started to do some research on the building, and it was built in 1943, right in the heart of World War II. It was built as an NCO club, which is a non-commissioned officers club. And it had a fascinating story. And what was more fascinating to me was the unexplained accounts. And I found, as I was doing some research, I discovered that the military police on the base, it sits on Fort Sam Houston in San Antonio, Texas. And the base, or the military police on the base, were saying that they referred to it as the Boogeyman Building. And I had no idea why until I wrote the book and did some research and found out, in fact, 2 of them came in one night because the door was unlocked and the shelves started shaking in front of them when no one was there. That's one of the hundreds of thousands of experiences people have, but we have all kinds of things, and it doesn't stop. Like, just like we said, I got the growl a couple weeks ago. It was closing night on one of the shows, the last musical that closed, which was what, 3 weeks ago, 2 weeks ago? I don't remember. And there was this high-pitched screaming in my right ear. And I run sound for the musicals. And I grabbed Alyssa, she's sensitive, and I grabbed her and put her beside me on the right side, pulled her around the board, put her beside me and said, you have to block, because the screaming was so loud in my ear that I couldn't hear the music that was blaring in the theater to blend the voices and the music. So she stood there. As soon as I got her beside me, it stopped and she started to hear it. So it was an interesting moment. And I felt terrible that I had to have her play the interface for us, but I couldn't finish the show. So I had to do that. We see black mists and white mists. Something happened to me last summer at the theater that had never happened before. And it was, I saw a white shadow person. So you know how when you see a black shadow person, they are black. They're blacker than the darkness around them. When you see white, I was never expecting it, never saw it. And as I was watching, or as I was running the sound for the musical, in my right eye, I was pulled because I saw something standing in the corner in the dark. And I looked over and it was a shadow figure, except it was white. And I just have never seen that. And I've heard that can be an angel or something like that, but I haven't done a lot of research yet to really find out more about it, because I was still processing it in my brain. I didn't feel uncomfortable. But the theater has about, I would say, roughly 10 spirits. Those are the regulars. We call them the regulars. That's what we call folks that come to see shows. As regulars. But the regulars that are there are just kind of our core people. There's 10 of them. But there's others that float in and out here and there. And I think they come in with the folks that are coming to see the shows. They might come in with them and kind of hang out for a little while because it's fun and there's lots of energy there. But we see all the spirits come in. There's one that's a little girl. I think she's probably maybe 6, maybe 8, depending. But she followed me home one night. She is not scary at all. She wants to play all the time. And she woke me up in the middle of the night screaming like she wanted to go to Disney World. And I was like, you have to stay at the theater. So she hasn't followed me home since, but I have felt her energy at the theater. She's a good girl. There's a shadow man that hangs around backstage. Many, many people have seen him. He's just very intimidating. There's another male energy that's upstairs that's very intimidating. We call her the invisible woman because I'll see her, but we hear her. She kind of like hums really loud and fast. So we love her, but there's a whole handful of regulars. There's a little man that stands beside me at the board. He's got gray kind of messy hair. He's got a white shirt and khaki pants, and he's got this grandfatherly like energy. So when he's around, I feel very warm and I feel very protected. So I miss him. He hasn't been around for a couple shows, so I miss seeing him. But we have quite a few roaming around there. We have them that call our names. This is interesting. So, and I don't know if others have this experience as well. Hearing your name called, yes. I hear my name. We were in rehearsing for one of the Christmas shows, and Sean is one of my very best friends, and he's the director of musicals. He was standing in the middle of the theater. I was at the board at the back of the theater, and the whole cast was on the stage. No one else was in the theater. And we have a lounge right outside the actual house where the stage is, where the lounge has the bar in it. So the important area. As I was running sound, I heard someone yell my name from the lounge. And I turned and looked, because it took me a second to register that nobody else is here. Sean turned and looked at me. So we both went in. There was nobody in there. Sean's heard his name called. Robert has heard his name called. Robert has heard his name called in his own voice. So he's heard himself call himself. So he's called them out on that by saying, guys, you can mess with me with somebody else's voice, but when you use my own voice, I know you're messing. But we have learned the trick to keeping them from following us home is every night when you leave the theater, you need to say good night. You need to stay here. Please don't follow me home. The theater's yours. You can have it till we come back in tomorrow or whatever it might be. But we always have to say good night and always tell them to stay.
And obviously, like, probably the reason that they actually follow you lot home is because they probably just feel a connection with you. Because say, like, if they used to be old workers or they used to watch performances, obviously they'd have that connection. So that's probably thought, yeah, we'll just hop along. We're sick of this fear.
Yes. I think one of the things I think I realized it subconsciously, but I didn't realize it until it happened. When MJ came to visit last year, she went to the theater, like I said, and it was just Sean, Robert, me, and MJ. And we went in we thought we'll spend an hour and a half. We'll see if we get anything, do some spirit boxing and just walk around and see. And 6 hours later, we were sitting downstairs going through the things we had heard and kind of talking through it. And several times, Sean cried a couple times. I cried because we didn't realize how much these spirits have become a part of us. So not only do we kind of count on them and we get comfort from talking to them, they get comfort from us. And to have MJ brought in a spirit box and we were able to hear voices, like like sentences. So, but here's what was funny. So she just started. We were sitting around a table in the lounge downstairs, and we had just started. And MJ said, "This is a spirit box, and if you want to say something, you can walk right up to it and talk into it." And a male voice said, "That was difficult." So it was interesting because seems easy to me, but I guess to them, they have to conjure up the energy to be able to produce that. So it was interesting. And as we walked around, we heard, I had to be at least 5 times, where the spirit said England. And MJ kept saying, "Yes, I'm from England. Yes, I'm from England." Because why else would we be getting that? I mean, we're in the middle of Texas, or South Texas. Why are we getting that? So it was really, really interesting. When we got upstairs to the wardrobe room, I can't remember who asked. One of us asked the spirits what the little girl spirit's name is. And it was a male, and he responded, "Oh, that's Isabel." And all of us, I mean, our eyes started to tear up because we had a name with this little girl that's been interacting with us for years. So it's really, really cool and this was the creepy one. And I know there's about, MJ's got hours of recordings that I'm sure we'll go through, but this one was really cool. There's the story of the invisible woman upstairs. Well, let me back up for a second. When you have things that happen on a military base, there's not really records that you can go through and say, "Oh, there was a murder," because they don't exist. They just don't exist. So the rumor or the story handed down about the invisible woman was that she was a waitress when it was an NCO club, and there were bars within the building. There was one downstairs and one upstairs. And the story that has been passed down about her was that she was a waitress and she was messing with an officer, a married officer. And she was shot and killed. And supposedly her body was found in the upstairs. We call it the Christmas room. It used to be the music room, kind of both, because it has Christmas decorations and old musical instruments in it. But supposedly her body was found in the ceiling, in the roof, like it was tucked up in the, whatever those things are called, the drop ceiling. And obviously you can't confirm it. We just know we hear her. Well, when MJ had the spirit box in there, a male voice said, "I hugged and kissed her." And I thought, well, that's weird. And Sean said, the waitress. And MJ's like, what do you mean the waitress? So we said, okay, we'll go downstairs and we'll fill you in on her. So we were finishing up for the night. We sat down at the table, and we turned the spirit box back on as we were talking to MJ and sharing with her the backstory that I just told you about the waitress. As soon as we told her that, one male voice came through that said, I banged her. And within a second later, a second male voice said, he killed her. So we all just sat there stunned because everything we had said was, holy cow, the spirit box just confirmed. It didn't confirm all the details, obviously, but it confirmed he killed her. And it wasn't questionable. It was direct. This is what it said.
And obviously that's amazing because I'm sat here and like, wow, because that's what we call us investigators thrive upon, isn't it? Like spirit intelligence, spirit communication with us.
Yeah. Yeah.
So obviously, with just going on to the waitress scenes story for the moment. So does the activity just happen with her in the area her body was found, or?
I have heard her all over. So Robert has heard her in the light booth, which is downstairs right off the stage. We've heard her in that room. I've had her energy protect me in the wardrobe room upstairs from the man spirit that's intimidating. I would say she's everywhere. Just kind of where she wants to be. She doesn't leave the building, but she's all over the building. Some of them, like the shadow man tends to stay backstage, and the intimidating man tends to stay upstairs, but the woman goes everywhere. She's very protective of other women, and maybe because of what happened to her or what supposedly happened to her. I remember a time I was cleaning out the office upstairs, going through old papers and just tossing things we didn't need. And I was listening to Janis Joplin, and just to kind of tune everything out and just zone in or just zone on the task at hand. And I heard her do that fast talking, high pitched, and I didn't know what she was saying. So I turned the music off and I said, you're going to have to slow down. I can't understand you. Slow down so that I can understand. Nothing. It's completely. I turned on the music, went back to work. She came back talking louder, faster. And at that point, I started to feel like, oh my God, she's warning me. I didn't know if it was I'm just trying to talk or I'm trying to warn. And that's when your intuition tells you, okay, something's off. I need to get out of here. And that's exactly what I did. Took my stuff and left. And I think it was so protective.
Can I just interrupt you a minute, Nicky? When you've just been talking about that particular, your microphone has just gone nuts. No one could understand what you were saying.
Oh no!
It was like staticky. Everyone's like, that was creepy.
Oh wow, that is weird. What part did you not hear? What part did I stop?
You obviously, oh God, I can't even think now because I was just like, everyone was like, what was that? Well, whatever it was, I don't want to talk about that anyway, Nicky.
Oh gosh.
Because I thought it was just my end, and then obviously I've seen in the chat room and got Facebook messages to like, what's going on with Nicky's microphone?
Okay, that's pretty tough right there, y'all. That's weird. Well, I don't. Maybe she doesn't want me to. Maybe she does leave the theater and doesn't want me talking about her.
Sorry about that, everybody.
But it's in the book. The story's in the book. So.
So, what shall we talk about now? Because that's just throwing me off.
Talk to you about this. This doesn't have anything to do with the book, but I did want to talk to you, and I've been wanting to talk to you for months about this. Was your trip to the Haunted Museum in Vegas?
Yeah, I'm just like, yeah. This is where people are like, oh, here we go.
Oh no, well, and what's funny is I went through the museum. Okay, first of all, I hate clowns, and there's some rooms with clowns.
Yeah, tell me about it.
But the other thing that was weird, so you saw the stairs from the demon house, I'm sure, right?
Yeah.
So I was with my friend Kylie, and we were walking through as we got to the demon house section. I walked in and I heard a woman scream. Like I heard it in my ear. I mean, it wasn't inside my head. It was in my ear. I heard her scream. And I looked at Kylie, who was standing right beside me, and said, "Did you hear that?" And she said, "What?" I said, "The woman scream." And she said, "No." And then there were other people in the room that said, "Nope, we didn't hear it either." So that kind of freaked me out a little bit because I have no idea who it was screaming, but because it's the haunted museum, God knows what the scream was attached to.
Yeah.
So yeah, and there are several things that happened, but I'm trying to remember. And I know Kylie was walking through the hallway towards the basement, towards the stairs to the basement, and she walked through what she thought was cobwebs, and she was complaining about it loudly to me about the cobwebs, and she's like, "Ah!" And there weren't any cobwebs, and I have know from having it happen to me before that when you walk through something, that's kind of what it feels like when you walk through spirit energy. It almost feels like you have cobwebs on you.
Yeah, I know what you're obviously saying because obviously, how many times have you visited twice? Did you say you visited twice or once?
I visited once.
Yeah, I visited twice. And Angel is in the chat. My friend Angel, who's in the chat room, literally lives down the road from it, so you can imagine how many times she's been.
It's pretty cool. It's a pretty cool museum.
Yeah,
a lot of good stuff.
Yeah, obviously, like you said about the static energy and that, when the first visit I did, it was like my arms were burning, and I kept checking my arms because it's kind of like, well, if your arms burn, you're gonna get scratched. So it was like checking my arms, and then the tour guides looking at you like weirdly, aren't they? Like not weirdly, but like kind of want to know what's going on. And I was just like, but like, did you find like in any rooms you went into as well, like other than the demon house room, that you just felt weird or?
Yeah, the demon house room I felt weird. I don't remember what the room was, but I do remember I was standing under this. It might have been the puppet room or the clown room. Oh, I did not like that room at all. Surprisingly, the room that I felt no energy whatsoever was the Dybbuk box room. I didn't anything because I walked in and so when we were watching the episode where they were going to open the Dybbuk box on the Ghost Adventures episode, I was like, oh my God, just open the box. There was nothing. I didn't feel anything in that room. I didn't like the Peggy the doll, though. I didn't like her.
Yeah, but the only room which I didn't feel anything in was the celebrity room, where he's obviously got the cases with Michael Jackson's doctor's chair and all that. That's the only room that I didn't and obviously the gift shop.
The gift shop. Yeah.
But there is obviously a lot of people do say that the gift shop is, active.
Well, I would think so. With so many things in there, I would think they feed off of each other. The energy. Oh, the other room that I just remember this. The other room that creeped me out to the point of uncomfortable was, I don't remember which serial killer it was. I don't remember his name, but it was the one where he kidnapped men and then did experiments on them and then kept journals about it.
I know you're on about, but I can't think of the name off the top of my head.
I can't remember, but that was one of the that's actually one of the creepiest rooms, feeling wise, that I've ever been in.
But obviously, it's just weird. Obviously, strange with you saying that you felt nothing in the Dybbuk's box room, because every time I go in there, I can't even look at the box.
Oh yeah.
Like I look at, and it's just this energy, and it's kind of like you being watched energy. And
interesting. Yeah, I didn't feel anything when I was in there. Like it was almost void of energy for me, and And I wonder if I wonder if if different people connect to different energies. It's possible.
And obviously, if you think, God, that you can't even think of probably the amount of visitors what go through that museum every day it's open. So,
Yeah, I was ready to open it for them when they were. I was like, let's stop this debate. I'll do it. Be done with it, and then nobody has to worry about it anymore. Yeah.
I'm like kind of like, do we talk about this now?
Okay, I won't talk about it anymore. Okay, so let me tell you something. I've got so many experiences I'm putting in my second book, because I'm working on my second book right now. It's called Conflicted Reality, and that's basically my paranormal journey of the things that's happened to me and my family. And like I said when we first started talking, it's not that the fact that it's terrifying or you can't live through it. It's more of a testament that this is something that happens every day, and it's very real. And this is, you don't always have to be afraid of it, and put covers over your head every time, because sometimes they just want to say hi and tell you they love you or miss you, and that's such a blessing and a gift that you don't want to miss it.
And obviously, this is the thing, like with any spirit, they're into like some, like obviously going back to your when you were at the theatre using the spirit box for the first time with MJ and that, they probably thought, oh wow, people can actually hear our voices for the first time ever. So let's,
Yeah. It's because there's been a handful of folks that have come into the Harlequin to investigate, but for the most part, it's a working theater, so you don't really have the time to have people come in and investigate. So, you don't really use those things in there. But every once in a while, we'll go in if we feel uncomfortable or we feel like they're trying to tell us something and we just can't hear it. But yeah, it's interesting. It's cool.
See, I just want to come to the theater now.
Oh my gosh. It's funny. I am fascinated by every single thing in the UK. I love the energy you get from the buildings. I love it. Even like we were talking about Warwick, I loved it there. We got EVPs there. MJ was with me when I watched this man disappear in front of my eyes. It's just fascinating. The history itself is brilliant. I can't imagine you would want to come here when there's so many things over there. I want to come there. I love it there.
I think it's because obviously, we love the UK and all that, but obviously it's kind of like, well, we want to see what the hauntings are like in America, because obviously I'm not saying that you've got more hauntings than us guys over here, but
yes, well, in where we live, where I'm in Texas, like San Antonio, Texas, and there's so much history here with the land and, just the constant battle for it between the folks in Mexico and the Native Americans, and then the folks that came in from the colonies. They wanted to fight over the land down here. So there's been a lot of things here that are just interesting. It's also interesting to me how many hauntings they have in the Northeast of states. There's a lot of interesting things there. We were just, Eric and I, my husband and I, were just in Minnesota. All the end states. We were just in Minnesota this past weekend, and we went to a place called the Palmer House. It's a hotel, and we did some spirit boxing and did some investigating. And what's interesting, we were listening, we were using the spirit box, and we were in room 17, which is one of the more haunted rooms. I believe it's Lucy's room. And I think there were 10 of us, 12 of us that were just as a group, that we were friends. We just met up as friends just because we hadn't seen each other for a while. And we were spirit boxing in the haunted room, and the spirit box got stuck on a radio station. And it started playing this 80s song, 8675309, Jenny. You know who I'm talking about? Which one I'm talking about? I don't even remember the singer. Oh my God. I can't. Anyway, this song starts coming on. It's about Jenny. And it was cool because we had a Jenny with us. So we're like, Jenny, get up here. She came up. We didn't get anything. But as we were listening back to the recording, there were 2 people recording in the room. And as we were listening back to the recording, Susan Cummins, her recording, when the music started, a lady started to scream and continued to scream the entire song. On the other recording, you could hear the song. It was the creepiest EVP we've gotten in a long time. But that was something cool in Minnesota. That was at the Palmer House Hotel.
The thing, like, you find that a lot though, don't you? Like, I've noticed a lot of my friends at the moment are posting up about EVPs where someone will capture a voice on one voice recorder, but then someone else doesn't, capture one on their recorder.
Yeah, I think it's always good to have 2, because it's fascinating to me that one recorder will catch something and the other one won't. And I don't know if it's because the energy is directing it to one area. I don't know the answer, but I think it's just fascinating. I would love to dig more into that.
What did you do with Greg? Are you allowed to say?
What? We haven't done it yet. We're going to do, we're talking about investigating a particular place in Texas. It's well known for being haunted. And I don't want to say it because I haven't checked with him yet to see if I could say it. But it's a place that's well known in Texas that it's haunted. And we are going to go do some research on it, do some investigation, and see if we can get to the bottom of it. Because there's a lot of strange stories around it, like satanic cults and things like that. And honestly, people scare me more than ghosts do at this point. But but yeah, it's fascinating to me because I want to get to the bottom of it. Greg has investigated this location before, and I never have, and I wanted to try to go up. And I have a lot of respect for Greg Lawson because he has a great approach. I mean, he truly takes the detective approach to investigating the paranormal, and I love that about him. I love that he keeps us grounded, and he and I play off each other well because we challenge each other in different ways. It's really fun. It's going to be a really great case that we look into, but I'm not going to talk about it anymore.
Yeah, I saw the video and I watched it and I was like, oh my God, like most of my friends who obviously I've met from Sage Paracon was on there, and I'm like, oh,
Well, that video, what you saw that Greg posted, that was the Palmer House this past weekend. But the other case that Greg and I are working on is something in Texas that hopefully right now we're off this next weekend to the Michigan Paracon, which is I believe it's the biggest one in the U.S. It's fantastic, and a lot of the people I love are going to be there, so I'm so excited to see them. So we're heading up there this weekend, and then heading to France to do some investigations. We're investigating the catacombs on my birthday. I'm so excited. So it's gonna be fun, busy time. But when we get back, I believe we're gonna try to do some investigations maybe in November.
Yeah, me and Carl are planning on going Michigan Con next year.
It's gonna be awesome. You're gonna love it. A lot of great people. You know all the people. There's a lot of great people there. It's a great time. We're very well. You're part of the paranormal community, so we're all like a family, and we're very protective of each other, and we love to learn, and we love to investigate because there's so many unknowns out there that we need to explore, and we shouldn't dismiss it. It's just things we just need to. There's things out there that I mean, not everything's a demon like we talked about, but I do want to explore it to find out what else is out there.
Yeah, and we're going to finish off with a few questions what have come through the chat room, if that's all right, Nicky, because obviously we've got a few minutes over anyway. So what has been your scariest moment?
When I was at the theater, we did a show called, I was actually in this play, And we did a play called The Bad Seed. And I played the mom. Not that that matters, but I played the mom because I'm old. And we were backstage. Everybody, at the end of the shows, we go out in the lounge and we celebrate with a cake and champagne just to toast the run. And everybody had made their way to the front of the theater in the lounge. And I, of course, was the last person, as I am, kind of tidying things up and turning off AC and all that good stuff. And I had my hands full of a whole bunch of crap. And my crap. And as I was walking out of the dressing room, I flicked the light to off. So it went pitch dark. As soon as I hit the switch, I knew I made a mistake because the hair on the back of my neck started to stand up. The hair on my arms started to stand up. And you know the feeling that I'm talking about when you know something's around. And I took one step, and in the darkness from behind me, I could feel, I heard these loud footsteps come running, almost charging me. And I started to run, and I don't scream. I'm not the person that screams and runs away from things. Mm-hmm. I screamed and started to run because I could feel it on top of me. And it scared me so bad that I thought I was going to die. I really did. And I thought maybe Robert was messing with me. I was hoping he was messing with me by the time I got to the bottom of the ramp, and I screamed, "Robert!" And I turned, and nothing was behind me. So I went out, and I asked Sean and Eric where Robert was, and they said, he's in the box office, which is in the very front of the building. So I'm going to knock on wood, I've never been charged since that time, but that was my most frightening moment.
Mm. So obviously where can everybody find you, Nicky, and where can they find your books?
Books are on Amazon, and my website is thehauntedharlequin.com. And on there you can I also have, you can find my Instagrams and my Twitter and my Facebook, all online, all on the website.
So obviously, a quick one as well. What do you have coming up? What you can announce, obviously.
What I can announce? Right now, I've got some things I'm lining up, but I don't want to announce anything just yet because I don't have anything that I'm going to be doing besides Michigan Paracon. I'm just going up to see my friends this year. I'm not actually speaking, and I'm not going to have a booth this year. I'm just going up to see my friends at Michigan Paracon. But other than that, I've still got a couple things that are in the works with my second book. Ooh. But I'll come back on and tell you more about it, Sam, whenever I have
an excuse to get you back on, that is.
Right.
So before we obviously say us goodbyes, guys, I just want to thank everybody in the chat room for your comments and your discussions, obviously for tuning in. Obviously, thank you to Nicky.
Thank you for having me, and thank you to everybody for tuning in too. I appreciate your questions, and this was a great hour. I love talking to you.
And obviously, guys, if you miss any of the shows, you can just go back on the Spreaker app and you can listen back. It's a good night from Nicky.
Yes, good night, everybody. It's 4:00 here, so good night, everybody all over.
And it's a good night for me, guys.